A lot of people think it's a company to do with tech. How can it be gravy? Let's call it gravity, and they call it growth gravity. So that's a common shot that I get. I feel that as long as you know that you're automating every single piece in your business, it's the best time to scale. If I was rude and I wanted to like screw up that relationship at that point, I would have just said, do you even know WhatsApp is a much bigger company than you are, and it was started by just like 4 or 5 people. It was a core team. So if that's a much bigger company that got bought for such a huge sum of billion of dollars, what is sort of giving you the liberty to taunt me like this or ask me even that why such a slow growth?
Namaste everyone and welcome to the first episode of 2023. I am Kunal Raj and I am hyped today. Why? Because we have someone who might share the secret behind the gravy they have been preparing for the last 7 years. Let's keep my talking and welcome you, the founder, cool boss and great leader at GrowthGravy, Viresh Vazirani. Welcome
Thanks,
to the podcast.
Kunal. It's my pleasure to be here.
We'll start right away from a burning question. Before that, firstly, I've heard about GrowthGravy a lot. So much that even without working with you, I kind of feel that we have already worked. Kind of deja vu hit it. So one burning question right away. Editor, please put a disclaimer. No offense, everyone. But you have worked with so many brands, right? Overseas and in India. So with whom do you like working? Like the Indian client or overseas?
That's an interesting question. What I would say is, if this question was asked to me a few years back, I would definitely say international clients, because right at the beginning of our journey, I had the opportunity to work with an international client as well as an Indian client. But through the years, I feel it's hard to generalize, because I've had the privilege also working with some Indian clients who've been extremely sort of great with us in terms of everything. I mean, the first thing is, of course, payments, because you have this notion that Indian clients don't pay on time, you have to follow up, which I would say is still a challenge, and we've found our ways to work around that. But the point is, I have had the privilege of working with Indian clients who've given us a work liberty, who've given us a creative freedom to explore and sort of trust us with what we feel will be the best for their brand.
Yeah, so one more quick question before we get a bit serious. You have been traveling so many places, right? So is there any country you have left not traveled yet?
So I love traveling. I've not had the privilege of traveling enough already, but I think I've done quite a bit of Europe, and I've done Switzerland multiple times. So I do enjoy traveling, and I think there's a lot more that is yet to be covered.
What is the scenario like when you go out? You'll be answering, sorry, I'm at vacation, please coordinate with this.
It's a mix, because a lot of clients do understand, and I've been fortunate to work with those kind of clients who give you that space and they understand that yes, you need to take a break. Yes, you are traveling. And I've had clients who, sort of called me and over the call they realized I'm not in the country. And yet I said, it's okay, let me know what it is. And they're like, no, once you're back, we'll speak.
And what about the employees over there?
So employees are also very supportive, in terms of, I mean, the team that is there are critical situations when they will have to ask me something, and then they know that, okay, this is a point we need to flag it. So that's the time I have to, but otherwise that I did have a decent amount of space, at least on my last vacation. I mean, I've had some terrible situations when on my previous vacations where I had my HR putting down his resignation during my vacation, and I'm like, you could have waited 10 days.
They see your out of office email, I guess, and they're like, chalo, let's not
Possibly, yeah. I think Instagram stories works better to communicate where you are.
In this entrepreneurial drive, right, people come under pressure who are working in this. Founders complain that they are not getting enough sleep, and then the diet is messed up. Feels kind of writer has penned on my story. But anyways, how do you relax like when you have so many your venture and so many people under you?
What I always feel is you need to keep automating things in your business to grow. Whatever you do, you should figure a way that either you can teach someone else to do it, or you can figure a machine to do it, because that's the way. I mean, of course, you can monitor it and you can see whether it's going right. There's amount of training that you put in to kind of ensure that it happens the way you want it to happen. You may not always have that 100% efficiency, but I'm sure there is a way to kind of get to at least 90%, 95%. And that's the art, right? So if you are able to kind of figure a way to automate different things in your business or in a profession, it kind of becomes easier for you. And I think discipline is extremely important. So I've heard stories of people messing up their daily schedule in terms of food and sleep, and in a short term it's okay. Like we've had 14-hour work shifts, only slept 3 hours, 2 hours, not slept at all. But I think in a long term it's not very healthy for your body, and that's just my opinion. And I try to maintain that discipline. Okay, I need to make sure that this is my lunch break, I have the meal that I need to. Sometimes I may have to crunch that in, and sort of just have a quick sandwich or whatever. But I think having your meals on time is something that, and sleep, meals and food and sleep.
Yeah, that is
very important.
Very important. Right. But yeah, when you are loaded, then you'll be like, so let's skip for 1 day, 2 days. Any must-have tools, like as you said, automation. Any must-have tools like you can recommend?
So I feel for communication, if you have a team which is like at least 4-5 members strong or a larger team, then something like Slack is a great tool to communicate internally, to keep a checklist in place. Something like Trello works. It's simple and easy to use. Then if you want something a little more advanced, what we use is ClickUp as well. But that helps us keep track of different design deadlines, different task deadlines, and yeah. So it's a mix of different things, but ultimately even something like a pen and paper is work.
So let's get to GrowthGravy. What do you call GG?
GG, a lot of people refer to us as GG.
When I was writing the list, I wrote GG everywhere. I saw your stories and it seems like a fun place to be, like you party a lot, I don't know, like every month as we were speaking.
Yeah, so we do try to have a lot of fun, because I think if you don't enjoy the workspace, if you don't enjoy the culture, it's going to lead to a burnout. And if you're not happy on a daily basis, it's going to be not something you can sustain for a long time. So a lot of people who come and join us from typical boring workspaces, boring work cultures, it's a massive transition for them. But in the long run, when they sort of work here, it becomes difficult for them to go back to a work culture which is like typical box work culture or a boring workspace. And we are lucky to be able to inculcate that culture, especially because it's completely like a young talent that we have. And that makes it honestly easy for us to sort of manage that kind of
I think average age group will be around 30, 35 or
less than 35. I think it might just be 24, 25, 26. That would be, yeah.
People following you, they'll be curious, like what is your typical day at work? What does Viresh do, and what is a typical day of work for an employee or an intern?
For me personally, my typical work day, I try to be disciplined and make sure my day always starts on time when it comes to getting to work. So it would maybe 9:30, 10 would be typically my time in which I always start. Throughout the day, a lot of times it's completely planned and I have truckload of meetings and it's like completely packed back-to-back schedule of different things. And there would be times where it's completely impromptu. Like I may have just 1 or 2 meetings and then I just, utilize that time to do a lot of other things off my list, which I've not been able to. And I have to admit, there will be times it will be completely unproductive. Like I will, lose out on time just scrolling on Instagram, and that also happens. So I'm completely brutally honest about that. There's a very fine line between working and sort of browsing, because a lot of it also comes with user behavior, right? So we have to understand what sort of people are adopting to, what do people enjoy doing, what motivates them to, let's say, put up something on their Instagram stories, or what inculcates the habit of sort of tagging the brand often. So a lot of these things actually come from spending time, understanding the platform. But yeah, it's a tough call to be a creator and a consumer. It's tough space.
Stuck between the trend.
But you asked me about how it is for, let's say, an intern or a typical employee. I think I would be honest that it's a grind, and we do believe in hustling and working hard. And a lot of times people come and they don't fit into that workspace. They don't fit into that work culture. And we are okay with that. We are okay with telling them after some time that, listen, this may not be how you may have seen. Because like you said, people see on Instagram, they think it's all fun and we're having fun all the time. But
I've meant to work so many hours. I thought I'll be fun.
So yeah, but there is a really hard hustle as well, which goes out there. And a lot of times people are not able to sort of jump on that bandwagon, So, but it is what it is. If you don't work hard now, and if you don't put in the work and don't hustle, you're not going to learn, you're not going to grow. or it's going to be at a slower pace, which we are not used to. So
Anybody you take who is working at a slower space, what you do then?
we try to motivate and we try to tell them that there is a purpose of what you're doing and this is what the outcome is. This is where you're going to head. But if someone themselves is not passionate or driven enough to reach that goal, or they have a different aim in life, then it's usually an open conversation and we're very candid about these things. So
See, you are very slow. See, 5 people are going at that pace.
yeah, I mean, it's more than a competition. I think it's about sort of, just letting them know that, listen, the amount of time that you took, you could have done X, Y, Z as well. So, but yeah, I mean, there's a fine line between sort of having someone be completely driven and motivated and fast at their work and not micromanaging.
I used to work there and there was like specific, why you're 5 minutes late, why you're 10 minutes late for lunch.
I mean, discipline is important. So if there is a client meeting, if there is a shoot that's happening, or if something has to go out at a specific time, we'll be strict about that. But as long as you're able to manage your work schedule and make sure that you're delivering, for what you need to on time, whether you work on it on time or not, or whether you sort of start working on it 1 month earlier, 1 week earlier, it's your call to make, So that's some flexibility which I think needs to be there in today's age.
Your brand name is quite catchy. Like, what is the story behind that GrowthGravy? You started back in 2016, right?
Yeah, but sorry to break your bubble, there is no story to it. But what I would say is, when I was starting up, it's one of the hardest steps to give a name to your brand, because that's going to stay. And it's like naming a baby. You can't change it. It's something that's going to be stuck to the brand, to you, and you need to enjoy it, you need to love it. But we just, put down a bunch of names. When I say we, it was my mentor who I would send out names and I would say that, okay, these are like some ideas that are on my list, and it was like GrowthGravy. And it stuck with me also. I'm like, okay, this sounds catchy, it sounds good, and people love food. So I think no one forgets it. But the other side is, a lot of people think it's a company to do with tech. So how can it be gravy? Let's call it gravity. And they call it GrowthGravity. So that's a common shot that I get.
So you have been working with various clients, right? Some are obviously great to work, as you have told. Some might be nagging. So how do you specifically handle them?
So if when you say negative experiences, there are two types. One is when we have screwed up, and it's natural, like anyone, it's human ultimately, right? The good thing and the bad thing about our business is that it involves a lot of humans. So it's about copywriting, it's about ideation, it's about how you interact, it's about project management. There is going to be human error. There is going to be times when a person's not feeling great, and that's definitely going to reflect in work directly. Of course, it's a constant struggle to kind of keep doing those quality checks to make sure that things go fine. But to answer your question, I think if the screw up is on our end, then we have to sort of go to the client and say, yes, this is a mistake, and give a solution, or find an internal process which ensures that it doesn't happen. Now, the other side is the tricky one, where you realize there is a problem with the client. And when I say problem with the client, there could be various things, right? There could be, in the digital marketing space, I have an opinion that no one can be perfect. There can be always a better idea. There can be always a better way to do it. And the goal is to obviously constantly improve. But if a client is constantly nagging or saying that this is bad, this is terrible, this is pathetic, and you get stuck up in a negative space, which is not healthy even for the client, not healthy for the person who's managing it. I may be in the picture, I may not be in the picture, but ultimately, I'm not going to be able to single-handedly manage the entire thing that's happening in my business, right? We've got like about a team of over 30 people. So there are people doing different roles, and they always work hard to kind of achieve those. And there is going to be lapses. There is going to be improvement scope. That's natural. I mean, if I have to say that, oh, someone's perfect, it's not true, right? So if a client has an issue on that front where they are constantly nagging, or they have an issue with, sometimes it's an ego clash, and sometimes it's, like, I want it this way and it's not happening this way. If we have a solution, like there are two ways to give feedback. One is you motivate the person and say, what you've done is great, but I think you can do something amazing, and here's some inspiration for you. Or you just say, can you get back to me with something that you feel would work? And that's a scope, that's a positive way to put it. But someone will be like, you are terrible, you can't even do this right, you what have you, are you like in kindergarten, are you in school? So that if it's that kind of mindset, you need to know that we have to get back to the client and say, this is not going to work.
It's time to take a leave. Nice one. See, you are. I was scrolling your LinkedIn and all, and you are considered to be like the cool leader, cool boss, great, rare personality was the term. That's why this episode is rare. Please check till the end. So this question is from your employees. Like, how do you stay grounded?
I think it's simple. What I would say is, from where I come, the kind of experiences I've had, it's been positive. The work cultures that I've been, the upbringing, which I've got, it's always had that kind of a feel of grounded. Like I'd say, right from when I was a kid, I would go to my mom's office and I would see how her boss was super chill, and everyone would address him with his first name. In fact, even like no matter what the person does, whether the person's like the highest in the hierarchy, or whether someone's like a very intern level or a junior level, everyone addresses the person with the name. And the way you earn respect is by showcasing your skills, your talent, your work. So that was my first experience as a child. And then when I went ahead, I worked in different startups, and I had the privilege of again working with people who were super grounded. And I saw the difference. I saw the comfort that I had in sharing what I want with the person. No matter the person's my boss, no matter the person can fire me, or whatever it is, like basically being a founder, being a CEO, or being a manager doesn't put you on a pedestal to bring someone down. It's always something like, as long as you make the person like believe that you're on the same page and the best idea always wins, that's going to always help the brand. And there was once an instance, and this is relating to sports, I was in a badminton tournament in school, and because I would play often and I've had the chance of sort of also representing the state once on a national level tournament, when it was a school time, I was kind of like the boss there, right? Because if I've represented state, in my school there weren't like many people in that, like in the badminton sport that I used to play. But what I realized is, once, because of the way I was playing, and the other person was completely like very like a newbie or something, and I played a stroke and I happened to laugh at it, or there was like something, and then my teacher in the school pulled me aside, and he gave me the learning that no matter who you are never supposed to mock someone, never supposed to make fun of someone. And this was at a very early stage. I must have been in an 8th standard or 9th standard, but that hit me hard that I still remember it till date. And I have to thank that teacher back then, because that brings sort of a learning that you have to be modest. You have to be sort of, if the other person's not like that, not as great as you are, even you were at that point somewhere in your life.
I got good bosses, man.
Yeah.
I didn't have the experience to have that kind of bosses where, like chill, like, and tell something. We'll have a quick round, like
Sure.
top 3. Okay, we'll keep it short, like top 3. Let's see what Viresh's top 3 are. Right? Your top 3 books.
I don't read a lot of books, but I've read a few, and I would say for me, my personal top 3 would be 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, Atomic Habits by James Clear, I think. And that the reason I love that book is because it's so apt, it's so appropriate, like, do small things that matter, and you keep doing that progress on a daily basis, and it's gonna, the end result is gonna be way better than, you just targeting to go super high in a day. It's not going to happen, right? So you build small habits, and that's what the book teaches, and the subtle art of not giving up. So yeah, you need to not give a damn about things that, there are things which you need to be super cautious about. There are things which you should just like throw out of the window.
Top 3 businessmen or entrepreneurs besides you.
That's a tough one. I would actually like to acknowledge like a mix. So I would say, of course, Gary Vaynerchuk, because he's like someone I really look forward to, and he's amazing at what he does. Second, I would say would be, in the local community, or in the local set of clients that I work with, is a close friend and a client, Ujjwal. He runs Sweet Nation and Nanbai. They are basically food-based businesses in Goa, because he's super young and he's sort of driven to kind of achieve it. It's very inspirational. And the third one is actually my mentor, whose name is Luke Sequeira, because he is someone I had the privilege of working with. I've seen him at different stages in his life, and it's very inspiring. So he's in the business of tech. So the name of his company is Pneumatic. And yeah, I think these three would be the top businesses that I.
Top three favorite movies. People say you should watch movies, but once you be in this field, then you hardly get
Yeah, it's tough,
like
and
3 hours, 2 hours you have to allocate.
and I usually watch movies not trying to remember what happened in the previous movie. So I'm very bad. I have a very selective memory. I just chuck out a lot of things which I don't feel are important and critical. Like movie story. I may just not remember it at all. So yeah. So even at this point, when you're asking me three top movies, it's a tough one. But I would say I like drama. I like action because it helps me get away from my sort of real world crisis that a lot of times I am in. But I think it would be Money Heist was awesome as a series, not a movie, but something that I enjoyed. I would say Umbrella Academy is another series that I enjoyed. And I think if you would ask me a Bollywood take, I would say again a series, Khaki, which I recently watched. It was interesting. But again, some of these, like Khaki, was something I chose because it was very recent and I enjoyed it. I just binged it.
You see the reviews and all, and then you top three underrated places in Goa since you travel. I don't know how much you travel in Goa.
Underrated places. So let me divide it south. I think I'm going to be a little biased on this and pick clients. So I would say Sea Rock Beach Resort is amazing. It just transports you in South Goa. I would say in Panjim area, top three places. Again, I'm going to choose places with a beach and with a sea view. So I would say Praina Beach Resort. And in Donapal, it's amazing. It's where I did our Catholic wedding. Then I would again choose the location of my wedding for the Indian rituals, which is Montego Beach Resort in Morjim. So I would say, yeah, Montego Beach Resort, Morjim, Prana.
All wedding locations.
Two wedding locations and one Sea Rock Beach Resort in South Goa.
Top three companies with best marketing campaigns.
I would say Zomato is amazing at what they do.
Yes, I love the page there.
Yeah, I love the Instagram. It's very creative. The one-liners. It's amazing. Posh. Because I know one of my colleagues who's working on the project, ex-colleagues who's working on the project, and the copies are amazing. So I would go for that. Third one would be, I just can't think of a third one.
Let's keep it a top two round. Three favorite countries to visit.
I would say Switzerland because I visited so often and I love it. It's super efficient as a country. I would say
Super efficient in the sense.
everything, right from travel, tourism, like you can get to the highest peak without even having to trek, because the mountain trains are there, they've got cable cars and it's super efficient. So it's just very well built, very well thought, very well strategized. So I would say Switzerland, I would say Italy, and I would say from my recent travels, I think France.
I have my top three list now to visit. Yeah, so another short segment, frequently asked question, meaning the answers will be in short summaries, right? So it is a quick. When to know what is the best time to scale your business?
I feel that as long as you know that you're automating every single piece in your business, it's the best time to scale. I mean, personally, for me, I feel scaling up is an everyday journey, and it's not like, go from like 0 to 1 in a day. I feel it's the small steps that you take that really matter. And a lot of times entrepreneurs and business owners don't look at what they've achieved. I meet so many of my clients who are doing amazing work, but when I go and I talk to them about it and I appreciate them for something that they've done, they're like, oh no, it's nothing big. So that happens because you are just making small steps of progress every single day that you don't realize where you've come from, where you started. And when you look at that, even on a personal level, that's what I think drives me on a daily basis. That's what keeps me going. And I think that's the ideal scaling up journey, that you keep doing better every single day.
That is Atomic Habits speaking here. Some way to get funding for your business.
I've always believed in self-funding. When I say self-funding, it's bootstrapped. So I personally, what I earn, I put it back into my business. And that's the best way. That's sustainable. That's great. That would be my opinion on if your business is something which can be bootstrapped. Go for that.
Most common mistakes business people do while starting a business.
I would get back and say they don't automate things. They try to be perfect, and that's a big issue. Perfectionism is a myth. It doesn't exist. You need to strive to do great. You need to strive to be to the best of your abilities. But a lot of times people, like even I included, like I'll give an example. I watched one of my YouTube videos which was about, I was invited to a small bloggers meetup, and I expected a huge crowd. It was a small crowd, And I said, anyways, I've prepared something, so let me come and give my value. And I gave the value, I spoke about it. It was recorded on a very simple handy cam. The room was completely dark, and I think the AC went off, so I think kind of sweating. And that was the video. It was up on YouTube. And it was someone part of the community only, of that small Goa bloggers community back then, like 6-7 years back, who had put it up. And I had a draft which said, thank you so much for taking the effort of putting it out and recording and all this, but I think it's not the best version of me, and the lighting and stuff is not that great, so it sort of, I would appreciate if you can please take it down. And I thought I had sent that mail until I once met one of my clients who's an international client, who reached out to me, and I was like, at that point, at the very beginning of my business, and he met me, and I got a message and a DM from a user whose profile picture was a flower. So and he said, I run a company in US, and I thought this is spam. But I said, let me meet and see, because there's a new page of our business. I'd not done any promoted ads. I'd not done any sort of marketing, but I got a DM on that from this random user who claims that he has a company in US and wants to meet and wants to discuss. But I mean, I was at the beginning stage, so I was like, even if it's a spam, if I have to meet someone and he's trying to scam me, I'm not that stupid. I think I can figure it out. So, but let me go and meet the person. I met the person, I did the whole meeting, and then after working together with the client for a few occasions, I went back and I asked him, how did you hear about me? And he said, I watched a YouTube video of you where you spoke about some strategies of growing organically on a blog. And I was like, is it that YouTube video which I thought I had be written the mail and it was taken down? And to my good luck, I found that mail in my outbox, and it had not gotten sent. It didn't reach the person. So, and I never wrote that mail. I never sent that mail. I mean, it's something that, so coming back, perfectionism is a myth. If you always are going to think that I have to publish the video only if it is perfect, I have to put out the logo of my brand only if it's perfect, I have to put out my business idea to the world only if it's perfect, you're going to miss out on the bus. And, I think you shouldn't. Just go with the flow, go with what you think is right now best, make fast decisions. Your version 30 is always going to be better than version 1. But if you think you're only going to have a version 1, then I think that's a problem and you need to sort of solve it.
When we have to release the video, we have 3 days. We'll be working for 3 days. When you have 2 days, we'll finish up in 2 days. Some tips to grow your business in Indian market, since you have captured the market here.
I would say, of course, digital is the best platform, and what you're doing is amazing because you are showcasing what your ability is in terms of production, in terms of editing. And what I would say is put yourself out. If you can even shoot a video on a phone, document and share stories of what you're doing, share your client stories, make your clients speak, do a very fireside impromptu chat and let them speak about your business, because that's going to really help you get the word of mouth going.
Some advice time, like what entrepreneurial advice you disagree with anyone?
In terms of entrepreneurial advice, what I have to say is there are like truckload of people trying to give you advices.
Yeah.
And I feel everything can't be relevant to you. You need to understand what works for you. So to give you a simple example, you need to have an understanding about yourself. So self-awareness is extremely important, because if you know you can handle it all, then at the beginning you don't need to hire a lot of people. But if you know you suck at, let's say, 3 things and you suck very bad at it, then you need to find a way how you can get someone in to do that job for you. Either you can either you learn what those 3 things are first by yourself so that you can do it, and then later be able to afford someone to kind of sort of do that job for you. Self-awareness is extremely important.
How do you know if your goal is conservative or too ambitious?
Extremely tough. I feel like I'm on a hot seat of KBC now.
This is the last tough question. Then we have some fun questions here.
Okay. So whether it's too ambitious, I think nothing is too ambitious. I feel you should always be ambitious. You should have the highest possible goals in mind. At the same time, I would divide it in 2 segments. One would be whatever you think, if you feel are short-term goals, I would put them in a conservative, or in them, put those in something that you need to keep ticking off your list to get some sort of self-motivation and, be happy about the fact that yes, you are doing something. Because if your goal is something like, I want to be the Mukesh Ambani of India in a month's time, that is what I feel would be too ambitious. So you need to I'm not saying you can't be richer than Mukesh Ambani, or you can't have as much of business sort of outreach as he has, but you need to have shorter goals, like building up to that. So yeah.
So you've been now here in 7 years, right? So what's the most rewarding aspect of your own business?
I think the ability of being able to take holidays. I think that's a tricky one. Even on date, like it's actually quite challenging, and you won't believe, but my team had been pushing me. Like, I mean, I got married and we didn't like do much of travels. So my team's like, when are you going on holiday? When are you going on holiday? When are you traveling? And when that happened, like when I like told them, okay, I'm going to be unavailable for 20 days, they were like, they were more overjoyed than me, because they were like, okay, finally you are taking a break and you're going out. So yeah, that's what it is. And I think it's not really the most rewarding thing, but because you still, even though you're traveling, there are some things that you need to do as part of a business owner. But like I said, the most rewarding thing is to be able to automate things in your business, to make sure that your team's there for you and they care about your business like it's their own business. And that's what's most rewarding. I have a lot of team members who are super driven, and I've seen them like work. There have been times that we've been working till 5 a.m., 4 a.m., and like the only motivating factor for them at that point was because they did believe in what we're doing together as a team. They did look at the business as it's our own. So like every time I speak to someone, it's always that, like my colleagues and my team members, I say they work with me. They don't work for me, they work for themselves, because whatever they do is helping them achieve something which probably without this opportunity, without the place that they are in, they would not have achieved, or they may have not achieved as much. So the only rewarding experience for me is when each one within my team grows on a day-to-day basis. And when I see them, like I have seen crazy transformations of people who worked when they started, before they came in. There have been people who come in as an intern who didn't know like a lot of things that they knew after 2 years of working together. And I don't see that I take the credit for it. I say that they have put in the effort to be what they are. I have just been there to guide, advise, and whatever I knew, if I could teach them, I've done that.
Big shout out to all the employees of Growth Gravy.
Woo, you're awesome.
Yeah, man. So talking about startup culture in Goa, right? Do you think like we can replicate something like Bangalore? Or...
I strongly believe we can't, because Goa is Goa and Bangalore is Bangalore. Like Goa has its own perks and pros and cons, and Bangalore has its own pros and cons. I hate the traffic in Bangalore. Goa is slightly getting there, but I would say that Goa gives you the creative space. So you can never have, let's say, a huge IT cluster hub with like 10,000-20,000 people working out of one zone, just being built up and going for it. But you can have, let's say, the creative people working out of Goa. You can have smaller boutique agencies, you can have smaller startups moving. I mean, I've recently got to know the CEO of Paytm Money working out of Goa, CEO of Paytm Insider working out of Goa. So, and staying out of Goa. So you have a great culture being built in Goa, where you have the top level executives wanting to move to Goa because of the the work culture that you can enjoy here. You can sort of work your day, spend the evening on the beach, sunset. If you work till late, you can go watch the stars on the beach. You can't do that in a lot of metros. I mean, in a Bangalore, I would have to I can't do 3 plans in 3 different parts of the state. But right, as on today, I have like 3 plans in 3 different parts of the state. So that's what is Goa, and I think I wouldn't start anywhere else in India.
So, what is your story about Growth Gravy? Like you told me, there is no story behind the name, but how it started off.
Yeah, so this is actually a very interesting one, because back then when we were in college, I had 2 of my friends who, along with me, we wanted to go to Sunburn and Supersonic. I mean, we're first year engineering students and there's this massive festival happening. I mean, we need to go for it, but there was a big problem. The fact is that ticket costs about 10 grand at least per person. So then the only option around that was, of course, we don't make money. So the option was option A, get our parents to pay for it. Option B, ask a politician, find a way to get a free pass. So we are like, none of these gonna work, because I don't feel right going and asking them 10 grand to just spend on a music festival back then. So I said, what are the other options? And I thought of this thing that let's make a music blog and write to both these festivals, said, listen, this is what we've got, we can speak about you, we would like to cover you on our blog, and we would expect tickets to the festival. So we did that 2 weeks before both the festivals. We wrote we started creating a blog, we wrote content on the blog, like enough to, like, if anyone went on the blog for the first time, it did not look like a new blog. It looked like this existed for like 6 months, 7 months, so we did have so much of content and made it look like that. And just a few days before the festival, we found out who the PR representative was for the festivals. We reached out to them, told them, listen, this is our blog. We'd like to cover you. Can you host us? They're like, yeah, you go, here you go. 3 tickets for this festival, 3 tickets for this festival. And we were like, wow, we made it to both these festivals within 2 weeks of time. And in our, like, I come from NIT Goa, so we had like a 1 month of the winter break, the summer break to do internships and all of that. And in the first day, it's not very hectic because we just got started and then there's a winter break. So we are like, we have nothing planned up for December. Let's use this time. Let's make this blog and let's see where it heads. So the first year we did this, and within a few years, we had so much of traction. We got to both the festivals. We had festivals approaching us at a point and said that, why don't you come cover us? They paid us. So it was quite a transformative journey to achieve that during college. And I said, if I could help like a hobby project of ours get so much of traction, why not do this for businesses? Because they have a product to sell, they have a service to sell, and offer this as a service. And it was a very unique concept. And I feel if I had to start on today's age, I may never have done it because I would have had people who could hire me to do that and learn. And naturally you do that, right? When you're in a setup, you always tend to think that before I start a company, before I do a business, even if that's your passion, you want to learn and work with someone and you feel that's the faster way to do it. But to my bad luck or good luck, I had no one I could sort of work with on that front. There was no digital agency at that point which was doing the work that I felt I could do. So I said, let me, put a word out and try to do this. And that's how I got started.
Was that the one initially what we were talking about, EDMFI, or that was a separate different story?
So this was EDMFI story, and then gradually after my engineering, I mean, during my engineering, I did internships with like startup founders, worked as part of different teams, and also during my college, I sort of, a lot of people ask me, how did you just jump and start your business right out of college? But what they don't see is the amount of grind that I put in during college to build my skills on other areas. Of course, I was bad at college. I had my professor coming to me and saying, why are you even here? Go become a television presenter or something. And I'm like, television presenter? Just because he found me good at communicating. I had started a club called Toastmasters, which is, like to build a communication and leadership skills. And it was because I was a part of it earlier in another club, and I felt that my friends and my college students and my juniors could benefit from it. So I said, why not start a club in my college? So I was the youngest in Goa to, not Goa, I think it was the youngest college club in the entire country, if I'm not wrong, and one of the first for an NIT to have a Toastmasters club. So it was something unique, and I felt like, again, I identified a niche and I did it, and that helped me build all the aspects. Because it's like starting a company, I have to do marketing for it. The only difference is here, I don't pay my employees. They have to pay to be a part of the team. So they have to pay Toastmasters and the fees to come and be a part of the club. And of course, it's to help them build their communication, build their leadership skills and all of that. And I did see a lot of people like benefiting through it. So that helped me. I was part of my, during my college, I had a lot of these, initiatives which we took up, college festivals. So being a part of those things helped me.
Professor rightly said that go become a presenter, because that was...
Yeah, I mean, it came as a shock to me at that point, because I was like, TV presenter, because I never imagined myself doing something like that. And I don't do it as well today. But I think just because he saw me being active in the communication club and he saw me giving speeches and all of that, he said, why don't you go and do that?
NIT has been the catalyst for GrowthGravy too.
I mean, I would definitely say that. A lot of people try to take away credit and say that, no, my college didn't teach me anything. And however, I know that the college did not technically teach me how to start a business, how to, do online marketing strategies, or they did not teach me the tech that I need on my day-to-day basis, of my business. But it did teach me problem solving abilities. It did teach me to identify the issues in a space and fix it, right? I realized that there is no communication club. There was no active college club in my institute. And I said, that's a problem. I think I need to do something. And I did it. It doesn't exist today because the juniors did not take it forward. But back in the day, I did it. I built a system and I handed it over, right? Because I can't keep being in the college. But I did build that system and I gave it. So I feel that I've done my best. I feel that I've, at that point, what I could do, I sort of tried to help solve a problem.
When you were starting out, any taunts and all you used to get, like when you were building a brand?
I would say when I was starting my company, and I think it was 2 years or 3 years into the business, and I went for one of the networking events, and there was someone who owned a tech company, and I think fairly a big size. I wouldn't like to name the person, but fairly like a team of 50 or 100. And when they came to me and they said, "How big is your team?" And I said, "We are about a 7 member or a 10 member team." And he said, only 10 members. You're 3 years or 2 years into the business and you're only a 10-member team. Why such a slow growth? And I didn't respond to that at that point, but if I was rude and I wanted to like screw up that relationship at that point, I would have just said, do you even know WhatsApp is a much bigger company than you are, and it was started by just like 4 or 5 people. It was a core team. So if that's a much bigger company that got bought for such a huge sum of billion of dollars, what is sort of giving you the liberty to taunt me like this or ask me even that why such a slow growth? So I don't think that the size of a team or any of these factors are really a key part about being successful or being great in your life. It's just about what you do, how good you are compared to yourself on a daily basis.
Then someday you'll be saying, I have 100 of employees.
Let's hope so. Yeah, but again, that's also a challenge to deal with. So
You'll need 4 5 people more to manage all those people, right? And okay, so let's get away a bit from business, but still come back to business only. Yeah, have you heard about that controversy, Ashneer Grover using his company funds or something like that? What are your takes on that?
So I feel if he had done that on his money, and what if it was a completely self-funded bootstrap startup, it was fine. But to do that on investor money is tricky. I'm no judge whether that's right or wrong, but now that everyone knows about it, he just looks too bad. So I mean, I wish he had found another way to do it, or if he still wanted to spend that, like make it official, like just say that, okay, my salary should be increased, or this should be an official perk, or something which like makes it more okay for the world to kind of perceive. But ultimately, I feel that if his business is growing and if he has, let's say, burned a I mean, if it's a becomes $1 billion business and he's burnt a few $1 million on his personal stuff, which I mean, in a way helped him achieve the $1 billion. It's going to be okay in the long run, right? No one's going to remember. And I'm sure as business owners, even if it's self-funded, there are a lot of expenses that you may do for your personal sort of leisure or things like that, and it may be right, it may be wrong, but it's your decision and you are accountable to it. But again, this is what brings me back to the question that when you have investor money, all of this thing becomes extremely tricky and complicated.
Now, actually, let's go away from engineering on business. Talking about your college, left out, I said in the previous podcast, haunts you kind of.
What haunts me actually is that like I explained earlier, I was not a star student when it comes to academics. So I would accept not so great grades during my second year, third year, and all of that. But in my final year, there was a project that we were working on, and basically projects also have grades, right? So it was, I think, a final year project, and it was our whole team which did the project together. We worked on it, and just because the rest 3 of my team members were extremely great at academics, they were given a much better grade, and I was given a very average grade. And I only got to know it at the end of everything, right? Because it's the final year project, so it's your final score. So when I saw it, and I was like, my project guide himself never showed up at our meetings where he's supposed to, where technically his job and his role is to be part of our project meetings and observe how, because I had seen other professors be super involved in the projects, and our professor was completely like, okay, it's happening. He would himself come once in a while, and then he gives me a low score. So it does haunt me a lot, but at the end I'm like, grades don't matter. So I mean, it didn't make a difference.
It's a solely marketing firm, right?
When I started off, I was passionate about digital marketing, social media, and growth hacking, and that was a core focus. But then along the way, a lot of companies and came to us and said, can you help us with the website? We have this problem, we want to like solve it. And we knew we were good at it because we knew what's the industry best standard, and we had a process to build it because we built it for ourselves. So we said, okay, fine, let us help you. So that way we kind of developed the web wing. We did some really big websites, including the International Film Festival of India, that's IFFI. So that was like a milestone project because we've done it for 5 years now, and it's like to manage a brand like that. And before we took over, it was like completely zero on Instagram and Facebook, and it was very poor, the online presence. So we kind of transformed it. The pages are verified today. It's got crazy amount of traction. So it's at least recognized, and it's doing justice to what the brand is about today. So we are proud to be a critical part in that journey. And again, a project like that has built a lot of things for us because back then when we took up the project, we were a young startup, and we were fortunate enough that someone in the government space was open to having a startup be a part of a project like that and help him out. Of course, there was enough quality checks done to make sure that we were doing things right. But when the final output was delivered, they were extremely happy, and they were like, wow, this is international quality. This is what we want. And that project taught us to build a lot of wings. So even including, like, of course, I said like a website wing was built gradually. A production wing was built, which means that we had people creating content and videos, photos, live updates going out. So because we are doing 14-hour work shifts, we are working 9 days during the festival with like very minimal sleep. There is pre-event planning, post-event coverage. So we put in the grind, we put in the effort, and that helped us build so much of skills, build so much of experience. And the only outcome like you get is when you actually put in the work. The skills you build is based on the effort that you put in, right? It's directly proportional. Like if you're going to work hard and you're going to work with the right kind of people, do the right kind of things, the output is going to be positive. You can't say that I worked so hard, I put in all the effort, and I got nothing out of it. It's not going to happen. You may not get the desired outcome, but you will always do better and you'll grow, right? So gradually, like, we built a lot of wings, and we started doing production as well. So as on today, we also have built something called Rava Fry Media, which technically is something that GrowthGravy specifically is something which takes up our direct client work, and we don't do production work outside of our clients. But Rava Fry Media, we built it so that we can take other brands, or we could take other different kind of events just for the coverage and the content creation aspect of it.
And since you're a marketing and now the video production, right? So how do you differentiate between your competitors and all? Because it is a service based industry, right? It is intangible. So how do you differentiate?
So we really, having more competitors is always a good thing. And we have so many like new agencies, freelancers coming up. But the sad part is, and it's a constant struggle in this business to be consistent at what you're doing, to sort of put in the grind and effort. Because after a point, if you're doing the same thing, or if you're doing a similar industry, it tends to get on you, right? And it's very hectic because client can call you anytime. There's something that's breaking news in the world, and the client wants something to go on that. So technically you are like a 24-hour, people consider you as a 24-hour agency to sort of be operational 365 days a year. And that's the challenging part. So it's not that you can just switch off. In a tech business, you still may be able to switch off unless the website crashes or unless the systems go down, which is a very rare phenomena. But in a social media space, you have something or the other happening almost every week, every month, and that can just put you off schedule. So it's very hectic to be able to balance that out. It's a tough combination to play in the talent, because you need good talent, you need good clients. The moment one of these system breaks, everything comes crashing down, right? So it's a struggle, and I know the hardships that of course we've had to go through, because like I said, we were back then when we were doing things, there was no one else who we could look at as a reference and said, okay, this one's done it, let's do it that way. Today I've had like competitors that exactly see what we are doing and try to do the same thing, which is an easy work, and I'm glad that I've built it for someone that they can just take it and try to copy it. And whether they'll be successful 5-6 years later is the test of their skills and their ability. But I'm glad to have built something which other people can also look at and say, okay, this is what we can also create, this is what we can try. Because honestly, if I had something like that, I would have also made use of it, right? So of course, I may not have exactly copied it, which there is some situations like that, but I am sure that there's more maturity that is there right now in the market, and it's gonna sort of grow along the way for people as well. So
Okay, so before you conclude, any big plans coming up?
yeah, actually this year on 21st of Jan, which is a Saturday, we are doing a 12-hour experience which is going to be called Goa Digital Game Plan. It's going to be by the beach, and we're super excited about it because 4 of us are coming together to put together an intense lineup of a lot of fun stuff, something that's going to help a lot of creators, business owners, and we are just super excited to be doing this together. And in Goa, wow, by the beach, I think that's going to be a win-win, and it's going to be open.
One of a kind, session by the beach, digital session by the beach. What is it all about? Like,
So we're going to have a lot of the exact content and lineup is something which you're going to release in a few weeks from today. That is from when the episode goes live. I think in a week's time they can expect that. It's going to be on our social pages, but the goal is to kind of put together like the learnings, because all four of us who are putting together this workshop and this 12-hour sort of experience, we have expertise in like different industries, different niches. So for me it may be social media, content creation, digital campaigns. For someone it's branding, for someone it's how to create a course and sort of lead a tribe, and for someone who comes with a sports marketing experience. So we're sort of bringing together like all the four experiences that we've had individually and pack it in a 12-hour sort of transformative experience, which is gonna have this is a long-term goal as well associated to this. But yeah, we are super excited to be kicking off the first leg, that is on the 21st of Jan. So yeah, stay
Nice,
tuned for
man.
more details.
and one more question before we conclude. Like, if someone wants to join your organization, someone really interested, what is the best way other than besides stalking you on LinkedIn or something?
So I think our application process is very transparent in terms of the like we have a dedicated careers page on which one can just identify the different roles available, and even if they feel that none of the roles fit the buck for them and they want to try something different and they feel they can add value, there is like a way that they can reach out to and sort of just tell us what they can do, and we can definitely find a way.
Nice, man. Yeah, it was fun, man, having you on the podcast.
Pleasure. I think you've done a fantastic job, Kunal. I have to appreciate you because let me tell you, ideas anyone can have. I mean, like doing a podcast, it was our idea. Like we thought about like doing podcasts. There are just two up on our podcast page by Skill Studio. Skill Studio Talks is what we called it. But to be consistent and to deliver it, like the execution, the hard work, the hustle on that front, is that's I think that's inspiring me for what you're doing. So congrats on doing what you're doing, and I'm sure it's gonna go a long way, and I'm really honored to be here, man.
Let's see how many podcasts comes around after this.
On the way to 1000.
I think, yeah, that was pretty much with this podcast. You can definitely, I'll put, what links I'll put? I'll put your website link. Let's say, yeah, I'll put his personal link, WhatsApp number, not WhatsApp number, but yeah, most of the links. Yeah. So yeah, that was pretty much with this podcast. Hope you enjoyed listening, and yeah, as I said, consistent. So drop in every Thursday at 6 p.m. And yeah,
Make sure to subscribe to his channel because it's awesome and it features some amazing people around.
some wholesome episodes like just like this one. And बस इधर से काट देते हैं.